I can still remember some very shaky days at line out throwing. I'd just be like, oh no, let's throw another one line here now.
Jason Harris-Wright, welcome to Throwing Stones. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for asking me to come on. I'm looking forward to chatting to you today and reliving a few old memories with the club.
Oh yeah, absolutely delighted to have you. Yeah, I mean the plan always was to get kind of a broad range of memories from different players that play for Greystones. So we've got like senior players, junior players, ladies players, coaches, and great to get a professional point of view as well. You had a 10-year career thereabouts. You won Heineken Cups, Pro 12s. You played over in the UK. You played over in the USA. But it all started as a little 7 or 8 year old down in Greystones Minis. What are your your early memories of that?
Yeah, probably a little chubby 7 or 8 year old down in Greystones would have been more accurate. Yeah, so I think it may have even been earlier than that. To be honest, I think it was a good, really good friend of mine, John Downey. His dad, Pat. He'd be glad to hear. He's got a shout out here. He was a big influence on me, kind of starting and going down to Greystones. Me and John were best friends, and from the age of kind of 5 on, and I think we went down together, and we started playing and kind of never looked back. We were probably a bit polar opposites in terms of he was tiny back then and I was a big fat kid. So, but yeah, no, that's kind of my earliest memories of starting and just running around, everyone running around after the ball. But yeah, some really good times.
Yeah, I was actually on that same underage team. Everyone was
I remember.
Everyone's running around after you. I mean, the literally past the face and you like it was like a video game or something like that. It's like Nelson Muntz for The Simpsons.
Yeah, I'd love to disagree. I'd love to disagree with you here, but I think you're pretty accurate.
Yeah, people will laugh. Although you ended up in the front row, you played out half back in those days. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I tried to stay out as long as I could. I got pushed forward as time went on. Yeah, it was. I guess I probably always thought of my skills as an out half, like kicking and passing stuff. But probably realistically, what it was more was I just wanted the ball first, and if I was any further out or in the scrum or whatever, I probably wouldn't get it. So I think on reflection, that was probably the real reason I wanted to play 10. Yeah.
It's funny, like something I'm actually kind of curious about. Like for me, so like I was a tiny player, and by the time I became an adult, I still kind of had that influence of like, I thought I was maybe smaller or weaker than everybody else, even though I'd probably gotten up to the same size. You were kind of the opposite. You were like a really big, strong kid. Did that have an influence when you were older, like in your psyche, do you think, or is it just?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely influenced how I played. I kind of would have always, like throughout school and even after, would have always kind of relished the physical side of it, and it would have been a big strength of mine. I guess probably looking back now, it probably like I had quite a lot of injuries in my career. It probably didn't help me from that point of view. Running into lads, just running straight into lads, and I had a lot of injuries from it. Maybe it was part of it, but yeah, definitely influenced how I how I played. Maybe I should have used a bit more footwork, but it was definitely something.
It's a funny thing. Actually, that underage team had a good few players that migrated through to like from under 20s onto seniors as well. There was like yourself, John Downey, Dan Kenny was the same age as well, and then there was me as well. Spot the odd one out in that group. Yeah, the odd one out is Dan Kenny because he can't pass.
Can't or doesn't.
Well, yeah. Well, we don't know.
He might actually be an unbelievable passer.
You wouldn't know. When you retired, you kind of announced that on Instagram, and you had like a really nice line about how thanks to all the players and coaches that made my childhood dreams come true. like, was there a moment when you thought like, this is a realistic option for me? You know, like I guess every kid thinks like, oh, I want to be a professional rugby player, but I guess it's a bit more realistic for you than other kids maybe.
Yeah, I guess like you know, obviously I was kind of blessed with big physical like stature and I found rugby, you know, not easy, but you know, I found that I was pretty good at it at a young age, and and then I just started to watch it and get more kind of. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning and watching was it Super 12 as it was then, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you know, and then on to watching a bit of WWE after. But yeah, so and then probably my earliest memories of going to games, I remember going to some of the Leinster games and some of the Irish games, kind of with my parents or with John Downey's parents and things like that, and that was probably the watching I guess the professionals was probably the time I thought, oh, this is cool, you know, this is what I want to do, this is what I'd love to do, and then it just kind of stemmed from there. And when I went to secondary school, it got more serious. Probably at the age of about I played like soccer, football, and as well as rugby all the way up till what was I, probably 16, maybe 15, 16. And then I kind of had to choose, and obviously it was going to be rugby. So yeah, that's probably when it got more serious. Was probably about 16. But it was probably watching all the.
How influenced you are as a kid, isn't it? Like you're going down playing for Greystones, you absorb everything. You get so involved in it, and like all you can think of. Like I'd be like on my gear at like 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, and like I can't wait. Like so funny. Do you remember those blitzes out in Belvedere when we'd be like 8 years old, and you get like a cadet, a bottle of cadet afterwards, and your medal?
Yeah, they were. I remember just some of the memories coming back, like filthy, dirty in the car, and like you know, just all those type of things. But yeah, like I guess as well what would have been a big influence on me, and what you just talked about there, like the kind of infatuation with it. Like my brother Jonathan's 3 years older than me, so he would have been big into rugby, and he was, you know, he was always obviously older than me playing, and it made me kind of go, geez, this is what I want to do. You know, like I was looking at him playing a higher level, obviously a higher age grade, things like that, and I was like, this is what I want to do. You know, so that kind of drove me on a lot as well. But yeah, those blitzes were good days.
You'd have Pat Downey on the sideline giving out to whoever the poor ref was. Oh my god!
Yeah.
So, like, as what happened with a lot of clubs, like you play your underage, so from like 6, 7, right through to like first year of school, really, and then everybody that goes to rugby school, they play mainly for their school. But one of the good things Greystones did, I think, was they had that Revigo tour of about 15, 16 or so. Did you went on 2 of them, I think, did you?
Yeah, we went. So I think at the time, I think it used to rotate between the schools. I think it used to rotate between Prez, maybe Gerrard's, and then Greystones Rugby Club. So I think that's the way it worked. Or maybe it was St. David's either, but they obviously wouldn't have been as big a rugby school. And anyway, one of the years, I think my first year we went, it was strictly with Prez. And then the second year we went as like a combined team. So it was, I remember there was a good few Prez guys, there was loads of Greystones guys, and then there was some Gerrard's lads, like Kyle Tonetti was on it, and people like that. So that was actually a great trip, because the tournament you went over to was like you were playing against other kind of representative teams, and when you went, I found when we went as the school individually, it was just too difficult. Like you were coming up against like, you know, provincial teams and things like that. So the year after, when we went as the combined team, I think we got to the final, lost in the final to a really good English provincial team. But yeah, that was a great trip. It was nice to mix with all those lads and stuff.
And were you playing as Greystones with the Greystones?
Yeah. So I think it was a Greystones. It was Greystones' turn that year. So we went as Greystones, and it was a great trip actually.
It's a good idea to kind of keep the club in people's thoughts, maybe for when you finish school. You played for Greystones a couple of seasons earlier, so yeah, it's a good idea. You had a very successful kind of schoolboy career. Like you had 6 years of cup rugby between like Prez and Blackrock, and then you'd obviously like Leinster and Irish honours as well. when you finish school in sixth year, like I think it's safe to say like you're probably one of the top players of your age in the country, and like with that in mind, you probably could have gone to like you probably had a few different clubs vying for your services. What was it about Greystones that you decided to join the club as an 18-year-old?
Probably a few different factors, to be honest. I obviously always had really good memories and felt really good about the club, you know, from growing up there and playing all my underage stuff before I went to secondary school, you know, so that was a big part of it. A lot of my good friends were there, you know, John, who I've mentioned before, Ronan Carroll, a good friend of mine, he was there, and there was a good few guys. I'm probably forgetting a few, but that were playing there. And then probably the other thing was, so at that kind of period, I think I was maybe going into the Leinster Academy and Collier McEntee. He had a big influence. He was, I think, the academy manager at the time, and he was obviously Greystones coach. And Kurt McQuilkin, even who was a senior Leinster coach, was in Greystones. And this, so I kind of knew that, you know, I obviously knew I had a lot of development still to do, and I knew I wouldn't go far wrong with learning under guys like that, you know. So it was kind of a bit of everything, you know, and I was delighted I did. You know, I had some great years even after I came back there.
So Collier McEntee, he was the head coach of the seniors, and he was the Leinster Academy manager. Like, did that help you having like that link there? Like, you know, say when you're at Leinster, like you have like a familiar face, or then at Greystones, then you can kind of talk shop as well. Like that'd have been like.
Definitely. Like even, you know, there was small things I remember that come to mind. Like when I remember one time I had a little niggly injury, but it wasn't enough. I was playing for Greystones on the Saturday, and I think we had a skills session on the Friday in Leinster. And you know, Collie was really good about it. He just said, "Listen, rest up. Don't worry about the skills session today. Get your eye for the game tomorrow." And little things like that, you know, that don't seem like a lot, but you know, the fact that you can get out and play and you're not struggling there, you know, things like that were, and yeah, it was a big help, you know, even the personal relationship with him, you know, from both kind of sides. So that was definitely a big part of it.
Was Richie Murphy involved in at that kind of era as well?
Yeah, so Richie again would have had a big influence on me. So it was Richie and Collie were kind of the two in the academy, I think, at the time. And yeah, so I would have known Richie really well from he would have worked with us in Prez, did a little bit with the junior team when we were in Prez, so I would have had a good relationship with him. So himself and Collie, I think at the time Richie may have been still playing. I think he might have been with Belvo at the time.
Oh yeah, he was.
So I think it was funny one time I think we actually played against them. And Collie was obviously coaching us, and Richie was playing for them. We were like, "Come on, let's go, Richie! Let's go, Richie!" Like, so it was funny. But yeah, they both had a big influence on me.
Yeah. When you left school, so like say like I think was there an under-19s World Cup or a European Championship or something like that, and you were playing as back row as 6. Then here's my cat. Just trying to get out.
Hi, Kitty.
I hit by a car last week. Look at her. She's fine.
Oh no, she's doing well. I've banished the dog to the back so he can't come in.
That's a professional mind. Wait, sorry. What I was saying was, like summer of 6th year, you know, when you just finished school, you were a 6 predominantly. Then when you joined Greystones, like 3 months later, you were a hooker. Like, what was it that kind of who encouraged you to go into hooker, and like what was Greystones' role in facilitating that move?
Yeah, it was a kind of big transition. Like you said, I think we played the Junior World Cup or the 19s World Cup up in Belfast, and I was there as a 6. So I played all my kind of schoolboy rugby at 8 in Prez, and then played 6 for the 19s World Cup. With an eye on the fact that I was always going to be moving to hooker, really. It was a kind of again, I was kind of trying to resist saying I could play in the back row. But again, it was probably the two lads I've already mentioned, Collier and Richie, who again would have been a huge help to me. And they just said to me, listen, like, you know, you're not tall enough to be a back rower. The kind of, you need to be able to line a jump, and you need to be 6'3" or 6'4", you know, this kind of thing. So it was kind of a decision that I had to make, you know, if I wanted to kind of progress my career. So it was, a tough move in the sense that obviously line out throwing was a very difficult skill to try and master. But yeah, listen, one that it was obviously a worthwhile thing to do, and like it was tough. You know, like you said, the first 3 months or when I went back to Greystones, that was my kind of first time at hooker. And I can still remember some very shaky days at line out throwing. You know, I'd just be like, oh no, let's throw another one line here now. It was funny that it was a weird one. So initially when I first moved, there was a weird thing where it actually wasn't as much pressure, because you're like, oh well, I've just moved here, everyone knows I've just changed position, I'll get some leeway. If I mess up a few, it's not the end of the world. But as you kind of get a bit longer in it, you know, you're 6 months into it, a year into it, you're thinking, well, I should be mastering this by now, and you're still having the shaky one. So that was probably but listen, that was like, you know, it was a real good learning curve, and it was, like I said, a lot of tough practice.
You're able to play at as well, because like that was, Greystones were Division 1 back then, so it was still high quality rugby, but it wasn't quite professional where you were trying to learn how to.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, it was, like you said, it was really good. Like back then, it was just, I think it was Division 1, 2, and 3. There was none of the 1A, 1B stuff. So we were in the top division, and I think we got relegated my first year out of school. But it was like, and that was kind of back when the IAL was, you were getting a lot of professional players playing in it weekly. You know, like I think we played Lansdowne and Dev Toner was playing. You know, there was a few different, like Paul Doran Jones, these guys. You know, so it was really strong. And to be honest, like I wasn't near ready to be playing professional at that age. You know, like at that age, you know, you might think at the time, oh, I'm close, but when you get to the professional level, you realise how far you actually were off. You know, so it was I think the perfect level for me, in that it was a really good standard, but it was really challenging. But you're not out of your depth as well. You know, so and then I guess you become accustomed to that, and then you know, and then you maybe play a bit higher, a Leinster A kind of level, and then you obviously go up to the kind of full professional level. So it was great.
Great. Do you remember we played a Macquarie Cup quarter final? It's a really good Greystones team, under 20s level. Like, it was like yourself and Dan Kenny was playing, and Damo Wiles and like Bertie. Like, it was a really good team. But do you remember? Actually, Ian Madigan was playing for Blackrock, I think.
Yeah, I think he would have been. Yeah. And
do you remember what happened, John Downey?
I do. He basically lost us the game single-handedly. So I remember that game a lot, because it was a game where, like, obviously you want to win all games, but that game in particular was one I wanted to win, you know, more than others, purely from the fact that I knew a lot of the Blackrock lads. I'd obviously been in school with them, or there was a few, you know, in the academy or different things. So there was a bit of a kind of, it was like, oh, I want to stick it to you here kind of thing. And listen, they had like a kind of star-studded team, you know. So we obviously had a chance, but we needed all our players on the field. That was the big thing. And I think John, like the most quiet, placid fella off the field, on the field, he just used to lose his temper the whole time. And I think he must have hit some fella in the first like 5 minutes and got sent off. Yeah. And I remember just thinking, oh no, like John was one of our best players, and I remember just thinking, like, we're in serious trouble here. We have 75 minutes without him.
I remember, he didn't even stop to look at the ref to see if he was going to get a red card. He knocked your man out, and then he just started walking. It was at the touchline by the stands. He knocked your man out and walked into the dressing room. And the ref gave him a red card from miles away. Yeah,
because he'd had enough experience of knowing what had happened, because he'd done it so many times. He knew exactly what the outcome was going to be. I actually must say that to him there next time I'm talking to him. I must bring it up with him.
I must get him on the show, and he can retort. But Yeah, we lost that game anyway, thanks to John. But
purely blaming this on John.
Purely because of that, yeah. But couple of weeks later, you'd actually play in the very first Junior World Championship tournament. It was over in Wales. You're playing for the Irish under-20s. I looked up yesterday the caliber of player at that tournament. Also, there was Lee Halfpenny, Jonathan Davies, Dan Bigger, Rhys Webb, Justin Tipperick, Sam Warburton, Nicholas Sanchez, Curtly Beale, Quaid Cooper, Will Guinea, David Pocock, Matthew Bastero, Wesley Fofana, Morgan Parra, Michael Leach, Richie Gray, Alex Corbisiero, Sam Whitelock, Ryan Crotty, Aaron Smith, Sean Maitland. Amazing to think that Graceland's provided not one but two players to a tournament with that standard of player in yourself and Conor Cleary. Do you have any memories of it? You played the New Zealand game.
Yeah, some pretty dreadful memories from that New Zealand game. There was some freakish teams that year. Like you mentioned, the Welsh team were very good. The Australian team, the English team were excellent. And then to top it all was the New Zealand team. I think they went something like they went their whole under-19s campaign and the whole 20s campaign unbeaten, but not only unbeaten. I think the closest anyone got to them was 30 points in any game. Even in the final, England hadn't lost a game in like 18 months, and they beat them by 30 points in the final with all those, so it was incredible. Like I remember thinking at the time we were playing AIL and some guys actually playing 20s at the time. Some of our guys were still playing club 20s.
Wow, right.
And I remember going into the New Zealand game and looking at these guys, and they were like playing Super Rugby, starting in Super Rugby, and it was just like, geez, the golfing class is massive here. But yeah, no, it was a great tournament, and I guess it gives you, like, it's like you can do it because you're so young. You can play like every 4 days you have a game. Like as we got a bit older, that would never happen. You'd be in bits, but it was a great experience. We had like obviously a lot of training camps coming up to it, and probably the only thing I would have changed is maybe the destination, because I think the year after me was like Japan, then all these unreal places, and my 19th was in Belfast. And then my 20s was in Wales, so it was like, geez, we really got shafted at the destination. But they're really good tournaments, and it's it gives you a real nice taste of kind of what, like that was obviously by far the highest level I played at that point, and it gives you a massive kind of realization of the step from you're playing club rugby or whatever it is up to that next level. So it was great.
Like that was 2008. I think Sam Whitelock won the World Cup 3 years later. Like just incredible skill set, those guys. You come back from that tournament, you'd have another season at Greystones, the 2008-2009 season. You told me before that was actually one of your most enjoyable years of rugby. Like, what was it? Just like
probably
pro yet. You were just about to.
Yeah. It was probably a bit of everything, to be honest. It was like exactly like you said. I think I was in the academy. I think after the 20s World Cup, I think we the guys went into the academy. So I was first year academy at that point. And listen, you were still training like really hard in Leinster. You were in there 4 or 5 days a week, full time, and then still training with your club back in Greystones. But it was probably the last point before I went up to and got a senior contract, and I guess took it even more seriously. So it was a combination of everything. There was some unbelievable lads in the team that year. Guys like Frank Jones, obviously John was there, Ron Carroll, Stu Abbott. There was loads of there was the famous rugby house in Heatherview. That all the lads used to live in. Kev Moose was there. We had a French guy called Guillaume, and then there was a South African, Stevie Meyer. It was probably a bit of everything.
You can have a drink after a game, not worry about it. You can just relax.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it was. I think we had just got relegated that year, the year previous. So we didn't get re-promoted, but we didn't get relegated. I think we finished about 5th or 6th or something in the league, and we had some unbelievable times. Like we had some serious trips down. I remember one to Clonakilty, and it was probably it was just, yeah, we went out and socialised a lot after games, and it's probably, like, looking back, one of the best things I ever did, because probably after that, for the next 9 to 10 years or whatever it was, you know, you can't really live like that when you're professional. So it was, listen, we were still training really hard, but we'd kind of, after every game or most games, we'd be up in the bar, and John would have his guitar down, and we'd end up in the rugby house and up to it. Yeah.
I lived in Headview, and I remember, like, I'd be going to work on the Sunday morning at like 9 a.m. and like there'd be lads pouring out of it.
Yeah, I was probably one of them, I'd say. Yeah, if I could see a recording of some of the nights in that house, it'd be pretty good watching, I'd say. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was great. The lads that lived there, they even built they built themselves like a games room bar type thing. So it was a pretty big house, and they had like a darts board, and they built a bar for themselves, and it was just everywhere. Everyone used to go there after being in the club. So it was a real, the camaraderie in the squad was unbelievable that year. Everyone got on so well, and yeah, we had some, like, and even till this day, some of them are still some of my really, really good friends. So which is a big part, and probably like a testament to what the year was actually like.
Yeah, totally. You're a bit of a fan of the old drop goals, aren't you?
I thought, I fancied myself anyway. Yeah, to be honest, it probably didn't go on any longer than that season. I think I got one in school. I remember one drop goal in school, and then I had two that season. I think what actually happened was, I had a bet with James Power. That's actually, and he's actually, if he ever listens to this, he needs to still pay me because he never paid me for it. We had a bet, so I think it was who would get more drop goals in the season. He used to always say he was ambidextrous, so he was like, I'd kick equally off my left and right. So I said, grand, well, if you're that good, then let's have a bet. So if I can get more on my right, my good foot, obviously, than he can on his left, and I ended up winning. I got two, and I think he got one that season. So it was that was probably part of it. Subconsciously, I was in games going, I need to get a drop goal here to beat the pig in a drop goal. But
we're 4 points down, and you're there to nail a drop goal.
Yeah. I remember one game. I think it was against. Who was it against? I can't remember, a team anyway in Dublin, and we it was meant to be like, we were maybe 2 points down or something, and it was meant to be like scrum, 12 hits up, James drops back in the pocket and hits drop goal. But he got tied in, and I was delighted. I was like, yes, that means I can drop back down. I sat back, and very, very ugly drop goal, scooped it over the bar, but it got there anyway. Yeah. So Pig, if you watch this, Pig, you know it'll be 50 quid.
Brilliant. Well, like, after that season, you turned professional, and like that's your own story to tell. It was a pretty successful career. You can save it for the autobiography, which I'm happy to ghostwrite. But it is funny to think that throughout your professional career, you always had like a couple of Greystones guys alongside you. So like Leinster had like we already said, Kurt McQuilkin and Collier, McEntee, Richie Murphy, even Killian Willis would have been thereabouts. Connacht, then you also had Kyle Tonetti and Ben Marshall, two guys that played underage in Greystones. And then in Bristol, you even had your brother. So you were always kind of tailed by various people from Greystones. But eventually, you came back to the AIL. We were chatting about it off air just there, playing for Clontarf. That would have put you at about 10 years since your most recent AIL game. What was the difference in the 2 years? You had a really good article on the 42.ie talking about AIL kind of and the standard of it. Like, did you notice a difference?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird one because I was with Connacht at the time, and I just come off the back of a big ACL injury, and I was coming back, and I went to play a game with Clontarf, and I remember it's funny, like when you're a professional player, I get the impression that people feel like you should be tearing up at AIL level. You know, you should be like running through, scoring loads of tries, which isn't the case. it's a really tough league, and it's physical and things like that. So it was like a really good experience going back and getting to play that. But like it was, I guess probably the difference I would have noticed is when I was in Greystones at the start. You obviously had your divisions 1, 2, and 3, and maybe the quality wasn't any different, but it was probably more widely spread in terms of the teams, opposed to, I think nowadays you have your top few, you have your Clontarfs, your Lansdales, your Corkons, who are unbelievably strong and as strong as any AIL teams would have ever been. But there's probably a bit of a gulf in class. That's probably the biggest difference I noticed. Whereas, maybe 10 years ago or more, it would have been collectively a bit stronger. But yeah, still an unbelievable league and massive for guys that are trying to, push towards professional contracts, or, it's a huge stepping stone. Like, it wouldn't be possible to come straight from school. I know some guys are nearly doing it now, some freaks, but you need that stepping stone, I think, from your school days to play a couple of years to even get match hardened and to get used to playing against actual men, because you come from school and you're playing against 18-year-olds, and then you're playing against big hard men. So that's a kind of big positive boost.
What do you think about that? Like, so, like, you kind of touched on it there. So nowadays, maybe you've got like handful of teams at the top that are really strong, and then maybe it drops off a little bit beneath that. Like when you were encouraged to join an AIL Division 1 club when you were with Greystones. When you left Greystones, Leinster were encouraging you to join Connacht. Like, would you agree with that methodology, or do you think maybe it's better to have it spread out, or should we go for like a Scottish style Super 6 semi-pro league where that's just ring fenced?
I don't know. It's hard, I guess. Like it's changed in that, like even more than 10, 15 years ago, you would have had all the professional guys still playing still playing AIL kind of regularly. So now I guess that the pro players wouldn't play as much in the AIL. That's a kind of big difference. So you probably don't have as much. Well, you don't have as much quantity of players at that high level to spread them out. So it's whether you want to spread out those players and make the league maybe lower standard in general, or group them together and make those few top teams really strong. That would kind of be my view on it. It's tough, like, and I guess it's like anything, that those top teams then have a monopoly on it all. They get the cream of the players coming out of schools, and the clubs are struggling other than that to recruit players because the Lansdales, the Clontarfs, the UCD, blah blah, they're all getting the players. So it's it's tough. I don't really know. Look, I would love to see it go back one day to kind of what it was in terms of, like, having 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people at a game, and having your pro players, like if they're not playing in a senior squad in a provincial team, release them to the clubs for that week and let them play and let crowds come down, and that would be the you might even have memories of that when you're young, like watching Reggie Corrigan or Nick Popwell or people like that, so that's kind of and even if you look back in the old footage, you'd see like Malcolm O'Kelly playing for St Mary's and this type of thing, and then he'd be playing for Ireland the next week, and it was great, like, and that's maybe not totally feasible, but to a certain extent, I think we could do
nice
it.
To see, yeah. And it's funny as well, like you said that there, but there was an article last week, I think Donald Lenihan was talking about, like, Harry Byrne, who's like talk of the town at the moment, but like I think last night was his 11th professional game, and he's 21, but it's because it's like so bottlenecked maybe in Ireland, whereas like Matthew Jalibert, who's the same age as him, has played like 60 games a level. Like, so they in France, they have 14 pro teams. You have that opportunity to go and play really, really good standard of rugby week in, week out, whereas in Ireland maybe it's a little bit more bottlenecked. Like, you would have experienced that as well. Like, you went over to the UK maybe to get some game time and get another string to your bow, and then come back to Connacht that way.
Yeah, it is, and like that's the thing. You have 4 provinces, and like you have in England, whatever you have 12 teams in the Premiership and 12 teams in the Championship. So instantly you're looking at 24 teams opposed to 4.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously a lot more difficult to get a contract and stay here for your whole career. So yeah, like it's good to see now that guys are actually willing to move around, and you're seeing it more. Like I guess there's guys that are happy to stay in some of the provinces and maybe not play too much, but then you have other guys, and I'd kind of be more in this favour that they've taken a risk out of their comfort zone and moved to a Connacht or moved to an English club. You look at Byrne over in Bristol now, or guys like that, and they've taken a bit of a punt on it, and most of the time it kind of pays off, and they're within a year or two they're playing starting regular rugby, and it's good to see that the bit of movement within the provinces and even abroad, because there's more than enough players that are good enough in Ireland that are behind top internationals.
Tyke Byrne's a really good example, isn't it? Like when Scarlets played there, became a really good player for them, and now look where he's like.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he was pretty close to giving up rugby. He was
in the AIL, I remember.
Yeah, he was. I don't know him really well or anything, but I think I remember reading somewhere. He was really close to giving up, and something came up. He got a call from someone to do with Scarlets. Went over, said, "I'll give it one last chance," and kind of went from there. And it's good when you see those, like
Totally. You're retired from playing now, but what's the future hold? Do you want to stay involved in the game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm coaching at the moment, so I'm coaching in Castleknock College with the senior cup team. A good friend of mine is director will be there, Adrian Flavin. He's always been really good to me. So he I was chatting to him a few years ago and kind of got involved on and off, and now I'm kind of full time involved with the school. So I'm really enjoying that there. I'm doing a bit of coaching with Navan, the AIL side. And I'm doing a master's actually at the moment as well. So trying to keep busy. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it, and I never say never in terms of wanting to go professional coaching, but I really enjoy the level that I'm coaching at now in terms of it's they take it serious and it's really well prepared and everything's really good, but I guess I maybe had a little bit of burnout from the professional side of things. It's unbelievably intense day to day, and everything you do is you have to and even more so from a coach's point of view. I've seen so many professional coaches, the hours that they have to put in is insane. So I really enjoy the level I'm doing at the moment. You work hard, like when you're there, and you prepare for it and stuff, but it doesn't consume your whole life as well. So what the future holds. I don't know. I'll kind of keep ticking away. I'm doing a performance psychology master's at the moment, and that's something I'm really interested in. The mental side of sport, but just performance in general. I think something that I would have dealt with myself throughout my career, and probably everyone else that played to any level or even at club level. The mental side of it is a huge aspect, and something I feel is neglected collectively and individually with guys, and it's something that fascinates me about kind of how the mind works and all that sort of stuff. So that's something I'm.
A lot more clubs now getting or international teams anyway getting psychologists on board, and someone they can sound off. Like I was thinking Sam Warburton's book. Like I think every week he was in with his just talking about how he's prepare.
It's something like in hindsight now, it's something I would have loved to know what I know now. 10 years ago. I guess like anyone, but it's like you train. You do your weights, your speed work, your skills, your tactics, all that stuff, but you never train the mental side of it. And it's like it's like, well, how important is the mental side? Without getting into too much, it's so that's definitely something I'm going towards, that kind of mental performance side of things.
You're coached by some of the top names in not only rugby but like sport. Like, so you've got like Joe Schmidt, Pat Lam, Michael Cheika, John O'Gibbs, Alan Gaffney, Dan McFarland. You taking anything from those learnings and applying it to your own coaching now?
Yeah, definitely. That's something I feel really fortunate about to have been coached by some of the world's best coaches, and the things you pick up from them. I guess when you're young, not so much. You maybe just you don't take it on board. You're maybe a bit more you're a bit more immature and stuff. But definitely as the years went on, I started to really think about why we were doing things and why coaches told me to do certain things or the team to do certain things. And when you're younger, you just say, yeah, okay, I'll just do that. And you don't know why you're doing it, but yeah, it's been a massive thing for me. To take that top knowledge and to be able to give it to other guys, and it's something that even as well as all the knowledge, the contacts that I still try and stay on top of current trends and different things, obviously watching the game in big detail, but reaching out to guys that are still in the professional game, playing and coaching, and just see what new things are happening and different things like that, which is a big thing, which is a big benefit.
Yeah, it's great to have that access. We're having that here. I'll ask you here, what's your favourite Greystones Rugby Club memory?
Oh, that's hard. Can I give two?
Yeah, go. Of course.
Okay, so probably one of them was getting voted Player of the Year in 2008 or 9. That was a big honour, something that I had probably never gotten before, and something that was actually really meaningful to me. I don't know who voted for it, whether it was coaches or players, but it was something I remember being pretty proud about. So that was definitely one of them. And then the other one would be probably from a playing point of view. I remember we probably didn't have that many successful days, but I remember we played Black Rock at senior level this time, not in the Macquarie Cup, but played them at senior level, and they had like a star-studded team. I think Shane Byrne was playing hooker for them, and they had. Yeah, and they had like their whole backline was Leinster Academy and things, and we beat them with they had a kick last minute, and it was the most dramatic thing ever. It held up in the in goal, and it was people were jumping for it and stuff. We ended up, long story short, winning the game, and we had massive bragging rights to all the Black Rock lads who were real arrogant at the time about how good they were. So that was probably one of the best wins I've ever had. Yeah.
Always beat Black Rock.
Yeah.
Who's the best player you've played with at Greystones?
Oh, another hard one. Again, some of my mates will be raging about this, but I'll go with someone that's not a close friend of mine. Probably Dave McKechnie would be definitely up there. He was pretty incredible. Rob Connolly was another one. They're probably two of the best that would stand out to me. Dave was just so naturally gifted. He just, some of the stuff he'd get up out of a ruck or whatever off the ground, and he'd just be gliding through people. Yeah, and Rob was a bit different. He was just a bit of a freak. So yeah.
He's back.
Is he? Yeah. I met him there. It was probably a year and a half ago now. I met him actually in a coffee shop in Carrickmines. So I was chatting to him. He's done his law degree and everything, isn't he? He's
yeah. Actually, I'm not sure. I'll get him on and I'll ask him.
Yeah. So they'd probably be two of the standout ones for me. Maybe probably the best character that's ever been in the club is probably Frankie Jones. I'll give him a shout out.
Very good. He was over from England, the scrum half, I think. Was that right?
Yeah. He was a big part of that team in the 08-09 season. He was just just one of those people, infectious characters, and just everyone loves him. So he's a bit of a legend.
Yeah, goodness, no doubt. Well, look, that's been absolutely fantastic. Really great chatting to you. Enjoyed it a lot, and appreciate you coming on. Fantastic. As soon as I messaged you and asked you, you sent back straight away, like, yeah, no bother. You didn't even know what it was. And you're open it straight away. So
I knew you wouldn't steer me wrong. I knew you wouldn't.
Yeah. No, look, really appreciate it. It's been great chatting to you, and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much, Jeremy, for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Bye bye.